And there we are. We have the sign in front of us that says we are live. It's Tuesday night, 8 p.m. here in the UK. Good evening to you, wherever you are in the world. Thank you very much indeed for joining us tonight. Do appreciate you spending the time with us. And if you're watching this on the catch-up later, thank you for watching it on catch-up later, whatever the time of day it is. So today, going to be looking at something a little bit different. We're not talking shoes tonight. And I know my wife will be saying, thank God for that, because you're not going to buy some new ones after this one. We have been joined by a very special guest tonight, a gentleman I've known for a couple of years. I've run with this guy, very knowledgeable. The things he's taught me are, he taught me to get the little band to put around the glasses so the glasses don't keep slipping down the nose while we're running. That was a very good tip, that one, Neil. Thank you very much indeed. We also had a discussion running up a hill of how to improve the effectiveness of running uphill. So that was another tip. And then on one particular run, we were talking the virtues of blueberries and their recovery properties. So good evening to Neil Salanki. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. So let's get this right. Sports scientist, sports and exercise science is your major. Then you've also done sports coaching and you're English athletics coach. So quite impressive repertoire. Thank you very much for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
No problems at all. But before we move on, you're famous in Denmark. Good evening to Kim. Thank you, Kim, for joining us from Denmark. And also Ben's with us as well. Ben Notley from his own channel. So especially go and check out channel as well, because that's a good one. Right, so Neil, just can you give us a bit more background to yourself? When did you get into running, and when did this obsession with sports science start?
Sports and running has been part of my life since the early years, really. I've been running. I grew hence my surname Salanki. I grew up in Hungary. I did all sorts from running, gym, fitness, kayak. And then I did all my education abroad, your primary and your GCSE kind of education. And as I got older, I moved back to the UK, and I got into kind of hospitality management, and I fell out with training much. I was more with hair and party type of person for many years, several venues, restaurants, pubs, stuff like that. In my 20s, should we say. So I slowed down a bit on the training, and I've always missed it since. So I've got back into it, lost all my hair, and I said, well, I need a good little career change, and what should I go to? I didn't have a degree at the time, and I was looking, obviously, to apply for a degree. So I applied for a business degree and applied for a sports science degree, because both of them I'm quite passionate about, but sports is the core. And I took it from there, and it was the best decision I ever made in my life. I will not look back. My fitness has improved since then. I've lost weight since then, and I feel, even though I'm not 21 anymore, it's been a while since I've felt 21. And to be honest, especially this year, I've lost a significant amount of weight. I was never a big guy or anything, but my fitness level, it's creeping back up. So I'm not 36 anymore. I feel like I'm back 24, 25 again, which is fantastic.
I do remember that you were one of those that just kept disappearing off into the distance when I was running. So you're not too bad on your running. So before we move on, good evening to Michael, who's joined us tonight. We've also got Dave Sargent, the machine. He's with us. Andy Hall has joined us as well tonight. So thank you very much indeed to all of you for joining us. If you do have any questions for Neil as we go through the night, please put them in the chat box. We'll see if we can get around to as many as we can tonight. But if you can start them, #question, then it will stand out in the chat box and we'll be able to get to them. So first of all, I'm a run leader with English Athletics. I've been through all the coaching there. And one of my bugbears, and we are all guilty of this. I know you've done this, Neil. I've done it. And everybody else who's watching tonight has done this. And it's forget or not warm up correctly. You get to where you're going, you jump out of the car, you lace up your shoes, bang, and you're off.
Absolutely.
Now, it's not the way to do it. And the thing I've noticed since I've had the heart monitor, is how your heart rate spikes when you just start the run. So you've that first half mile, 3/4 of a mile, your heart rate's up there at the peak and spiking before it actually settles down. So that is where, to me, the warm-up is essential. If you get warmed up and you get the heart rate up, you're not going to have that spike when you initially start. Can you give us a bit more detail about that and the warm-up in general, why we should warm up, why we shouldn't forget about it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'll answer that question in two halves if that's okay. I'll get to the warm-up bit in a separate section just afterwards. It'll be a bit of a longer answer where your first 2 minutes of a run, walk, sprint, well, you wouldn't sprint for 2 minutes, but you're always going to get that spike or fluctuation in heart rate initially, whether you're starting a warm-up, whether you're starting your race, irrelevant. So a warm-up, is not, it will help it a tiny bit, and it's going to take that edge off a tiny bit, but it takes 2 minutes for your body to accustomize to the physiological demand that you're putting it under. So that might be a run, a jog, a cycle, a swim, whatever exercise you're doing, as long as it's a steady state. So it's called steady state exercise. You reach a steady state within 48 seconds, 2 minutes, which is 120 seconds, should I say. So when you're in a science lab, for example, you're running on a treadmill or you're walking on a treadmill, it doesn't matter what speed, as long as it's a constant speed on a flat surface, the first 2 minutes of your run, walk, jog, whatever it may be, your heart rate's going to go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, fluctuate until it's kind of reaches that steady state. Now, for as long as you don't go up a hill or down a hill or increase your speed, that steady state heart rate in terms of beats per minute is going to stay the same. So that'll explain your kind of first 2 minutes kind of spike up and down. Good way to utilize this in terms of your race or your training, if you're doing a longer run on a train as a training session, you utilize it. So let's say you want to 7-minute mile, a 5K. That might be one of them. In terms of your warm up or your first kind of half a mile, you want to maybe 6-minute 40 mile, maybe just the first 2 minutes while it just fluctuates, and that'll feel quite hard, obviously, because you're not trying to 7-minute mile. And by the time you've got to steady state, you're probably going to reach that 7-minute mile, and your 7-minute mile might just feel that tiny bit more comfortable for you for the rest of the run, for as long as you don't hit a hill, which is a different story. So that was kind of part one to your fluctuation and your increased spike of heart rate. Warm-ups, absolutely, they are hugely essential for many, many reasons. Initially, it's a pulse raiser. It gets your heart rate up. It helps cellular respiration, which is a metabolic process that converts glucose into ATP, which is needed for energy production. In terms of the run, it's brilliant for injury prevention, obviously. So you're not going to have any tears, joint, tendon, or muscle injuries, musculoskeletal injuries. And finally, your synovial fluid within your joints, or like a fatty jelly type material, they get more fluid as your core temperature rises with a warm-up. So it's really, really important to warm up. And not only that, you get physiological benefits out of it. So with a proper warm-up, which is purposely planned and specifically tailored to the exercise that it's going to follow. So by that, what I mean, your warm-up exercises should include drills and preparation exercises that are specific and functional to the exercise that are going to be produced within the main session. And again, I can talk about this forever, but by specific, what I mean is, if, for example, if you're going to do a speed session or a hill session, in your warm-up, I would include, a couple of short sprints, some high-intensity movements, some plyometric movements that, that engage them deeper muscles that you're going to be using. So like some squat jumps, maybe some plyometric lunges and things like that, which will help you kind of later on. I can talk about this forever, so just please stop me.
No problem at all. No problems at all, Neil. First of all, Alfred Hull has joined us. Neil used to train me in athletics, so there you go.
I did indeed. Good evening, young Alfie.
So there you go. You've got one recommendation before we start. But Ben has actually asked a question tonight, so let's get into that question. As he says, he's coming back from a stress fracture. Is there anything he should be doing to make sure he doesn't re-injure himself straight away?
Yes. My first instinct there, I would suggest low impact activities. I mean, we can't swim at the moment due to obviously restrictions, etc. But we're all looking forward to the 12th of April and when we're allowed back. But to keep your cardio up, I would suggest getting on the bike if you can, and reduce running. And impact depending on where your fracture is. I'm presuming leg here. So keep the impact down and gradually build that up over the weeks. Keep your cardio up. Rowing machine, things like that is absolutely brilliant. In the meantime, you can also keep your cardio up and your strength up by adding strength exercises into your training routine. That can be anything from core development, lower body, upper body, hypertrophy, strength, or muscular endurance, depending on what you want to kind of develop. But there is plenty you can do, and there's lots of different techniques you can use. For example, tempo, which you can play with. You can reduce your recovery time between sets and repetitions to keep that heart rate going. And this even without a gym, I can definitely write you a good exercise program.
Right, we will put your email details in the description below this video later on. So if anybody wants to email, we'll go for that. He's actually come back and said tibial stress fracture.
Yes, shin splint, and that is a lower body. So yes, stay away from impact at the moment, depending on how far you are into your recovery. And keep your cardio up because it's good. You're not going to lose your cardio if you keep up your intensity. Just do it on a bike or when you can swim, etc. And in terms of your strength training, very important in any sport that you do, but including running, core and strength exercises.
Fantastic. You've just said to a runner, "Don't run," so it's just gone boom. One here and out the other. Yeah, thanks very much indeed for that, Neil. If anybody else has got any questions about the warm-up, we'll just spend a couple of minutes on this. So if you've got questions about any warm-up techniques or what you should be doing specifically, then we can look into that.
Yeah,
but, as you just said, Neil, it's that ramp, isn't it? It's the building up to the what your actual main session is going to be. Ben says, thanks very much.
No worries, Ben. Thank you very much. Drills are another thing that people tend to get wrong or misinterpret what drills are in terms of warm up. Like at school when you're learning your ABCs, your 1, 2, 3s, you learn by repetition, and your body is exactly the same. So when introducing drills into your training program, number one, they have to be done on a regular basis, several times or possibly every time, depending on what you're trying to develop. It's supposed to mimic the movement of running. So drills in running mainly are there to improve your gait, your stride length and things like that. And number three is they need to be practiced perfectly. So when they say practice makes perfect, is not entirely true when it comes to drills, because it's perfect practice that makes perfect. Because if you, let's say in school, you learn that 2 and 2 is 7, and you keep repeating that 2 and 2 is 7, that's what you will learn. And if you do a bad drill and you repeat the drill incorrectly, that's what your body will learn. And then as you're running, especially when you're fatigued, that's what it's going to reproduce, and you can lose a lot of technique and running economy, energy costs, and it can cost you a PB at the end or a race. So perfect practice makes perfect in terms of drills.
Well, as you say, it's getting it right, and sometimes if you're not doing it right, it can cause more damage than good. It's like doing the lunge, isn't it? Making sure that your leg is at that 90-degree angle. If you get it too far over the 90 degrees, you could be causing pressure in the wrong places and causing yourself an injury. So yeah, it's making sure you do the exercise correctly in the first instance.
Absolutely. Going back to the lunge, you've just mentioned there a lot of I see in gyms, it frustrates me with personal trainers teaching lunges, and they do the 90-degree knee and they really focus on the front knee, back knee, and that's absolutely brilliant. It's a really important part of the lunge, but you'll find that the trunk of the person kind of slouches, so the slouching forward again. It's really important that you've got that good spinal posture and an upright position, open your lungs up. And another thing, as I said before, in terms of warm-up and specificity, arm movement. So when you're doing a lunge, so you've got your left leg forward and your right leg back, make sure that you accentuate your arms, because you use your arms in your running, which often get neglected. So when you're doing it, make a purposeful decision to pull out your arms at the front as well, because the movement of your arms in running is just as important, because it propels you, it creates momentum, etc. So perfect practice, mate. Perfect.
Well, as you say, ABCs, and as we know in the running world, ABCs is agility, balance, and coordination. So that's what the warm-up's about. And I've just thrown myself then. You said something else, and I was going to mention it, and it's just totally gone out of my head. So I'll come back to that when I remember it.
Yeah.
Good evening to Mark. He's joined us tonight as well.
Hi, Mark.
Thanks for making the chance to get with us. Just give it. So we're talking about the ABCs, lunges. Yeah, arm movements. That's what it was. Again, runners, and you can see it with the recreational runner, because we won't look at the elites because they should know what they're doing. The recreational runner, the arms are hardly moving, they're coming across the chest. But again, the movement of the arms, that's the balance and the coordination of the body. Plus, when you're pushing that arm back, that's affecting your speed as well, and can get you and can propel you, especially when you're starting to feel tired. If you just start pushing with those arms, it does pick you up again.
Yeah, it creates momentum. Observing over the years, I've lots of running and runners here in Blackpool, abroad, and arm technique is one, and especially let's say you're running a 5K, and then the last kilometer 4 to 5, you get fatigued, you're tired, and people start to slouch the posture. Their arms start kind of coming across the body, and when they're in a slouched position, it doesn't allow them to lift up their knees properly as such. And for me, it's really, really frustrating. I mean, I'm guilty of it. I'm sure you are, Tony, as well. We've all done it before when we're absolutely knackered on the last stretch or of a training run, especially in February. It's March now, isn't it? But yeah. It's quite hard. So I try to psychologically use that thought of saying, hang on a minute, prolonging pain is senseless. So what I mean by that is when you are slouched, you're running economy and you're running posture and you're running gait, your stride length, it completely reduces. So even though that little bit of a slouch, and it might psychologically give you that edge, saying, do you know what, it's actually made my run a bit easier, kind of, because that's the only reason why I can see why people do it. And it might put that switch in people's heads, but it slows you down. So that from K4, when you start slouching, you lose your posture, you lose your knee, and you lose control of your arms. You lost complete focus. It doesn't make the 1 kilometer, the last kilometer of a 5K run or whatever run you're doing, doesn't make it any shorter. So all you're doing is prolonging your pain, because you're actually having to invest more energy per stride than you would if you were in an upright posture. Open up the chest, get the oxygen in there, lift the knees up, use your core to lift the knees up. Don't just you use your momentum, you use your core to lift your knees up, and it really does help you through. And once you kind of get used to that, it actually has less of an energy cost to finish that last K than slouching.
I've been shouted at a few times by coaches. High hips, high hips. Keep your hips up. Yes, don't let the body sink down. Keep the hips up. Right, got a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
Good evening to John Eaton, who's joined us tonight. Quick question about the arms. Is it best to keep arms high?
It depends on the run itself, whether you're completing a sprint, or something long distance. What I teach, or I used to teach, or well, I still do when I practice, is cheek to cheek. So try and keep your arm from one cheek to your other arm at kind of your butt cheek. So I kind of teach the cheek to cheek technique. To all my athletes, so generally high, but if you're sprinting, you kind of go long and a bit higher, where on an endurance run it's cheek to cheek.
Fantastic. This is the same way I've been taught: chin, back pocket, chin, back pocket.
Yeah,
similar thing. Right. So I hope that one helps you, John. Michael Sanderson's question. So thank you very much indeed, Michael. Basically, what was your pre-race routine? Food, hydrating, time to warm up, etc. So how would you approach it, or how would you coach one of your athletes to approach, let's say, a 10K race?
Okay, a 10K race, I'd say no more than 10-15 minutes of a warm up. It would include a gentle jog, some possibly 60% of your VO2 in terms of heart rate. Initially, definitely some mobility drills, some dynamic flexibility in there. So things like walking mummies, where you bring your extended legs up to meet your hands a couple of times to get your hamstrings there. Some ballistic kind of plyometric movements. What else would I do? Some shorter sprints, or try to get up within your warm-up phase, like an interval type of session, where you get your speed up for, let's say you're running for 10 minutes of your warm-up, and you do another 10 minutes of mobility and different exercises. So in that 10 minutes of your warm-up, gradually get your heart rate up, reach steady state, spend a minute in steady state, and try and, depending on what your race pace is, let's say you want to 8-minute mile your 10K or 7-minute mile your 10K, get beyond that point. So do a minute, say at 6-minute 40 pace, or 7-minute miling, or 7:30 if you're going for the 8-minute miling pace, and then go back down and spend it back down and under between 40 and 60%, and then do another minute, and just get used to that feeling of getting your heart rate there, getting your a 6-minute miling, your stride length is going to be completely different to 8-minute miling. So get your body used to doing that, but don't overexert yourself. So don't for 10K more 10, 15, 20 minutes tops with flexibility, but make sure they're dynamic flexibility, and it's not static stretches or anything more than 10-15 seconds.
Yeah, the static stretching, that's for afterwards, really, isn't it? It's
not
for your yeah. And then, as you say, a very eloquent way of staying strides before you start your race. Just do some short bursts at a high tempo. Fantastic.
Yeah, bounding's brilliant.
Okay, I hope that helps, Michael. With regard to hydration, you just drink to thirst, really, isn't it? You've hydrated yourself over the preceding 24 hours, 48 hours. That's when you're building the hydration. So really, just before a race, you're just drinking to thirst, aren't you?
Absolutely. I mean, if you're running a longer event, hydration in terms of a marathon, it'll be, or a tri, it'll be completely different, because you're going to want to replace your sodium and your electrolytes in there. I can't recommend a specific brand, but especially as the weather gets warmer, we all sweat more, don't we, during the summer and etc. But not only do you use water when you sweat, your body gets rid of that, but it also gets rid of electrolytes and sodium. So sometimes if you see sweat patches after you've had a hard workout, there'll be like a white ring around it on your black t-shirt, and that is sodium. It's basically salt. So sodium in your body plays an important role in terms of neuromuscular signaling. and muscle contractions and so on. So it's important to replenish those as well as hydration. Imagine your water content or body content in terms of a glass of cordial, a strawberry cordial or something, and it's completely full. But as you sweat, this cordial bottle, you've got less and less water in it, haven't you? So this cordial concentrate is now, let's say, half full. So now you're going to just add water into it. What's going to happen to the strawberry concentrate? It's going to dilute. Yeah. So you've got less sodium concentration in your body. And if you keep adding just water and not the electrolytes and all the other good stuff, it can be deadly if you it's not got any signals when you run out of sodium as such. You just run out and you'll drop dead. But it's a very rare condition to, you'd have to drink about 12 pints of water or something like that for you to reach that in a marathon. I wouldn't recommend drinking that much, but when you do, just have the odd Lucozade or a sugary drink, etc. Second thing during a marathon or a longer run is you need to think about your energy levels, because you're going to have diminished glucose levels, and glucose is absolutely paramount for energy production, especially when you hit the wall. I've never run a marathon, hands up. I will one day. But it's really important to replenish your energy levels, especially when you hit the wall. 21 miles, I believe. Yeah. Athletes usually struggle at that point. So, get some glucose in there somehow, whether that might be sweets. Some people have gels.
Jelly babies.
Jelly babies. Each to their own. Get that glucose in. It's not gonna.
But yeah, the sports manufacturers are making it easier for these days. If you go back to the 80s, you'd see lots of people collapsing after hitting the wall because they were just getting water. But now with the gels and drinks and things like Tailwind, they've got the electrolytes in there, they've got the carbohydrates in there, so there's enough to keep the non-elite runners like ourselves going. So the science has improved, and it's to our benefit that we can go further and we can replenish ourselves.
100%. I'd, in terms of preparation for a race, I would, if it's a longer race, I wouldn't bother for a 10K. You'll be fine. It's an hour.
Yeah, the body has enough fuel for at least an hour normally anyway. So.
Absolutely. A glass of water halfway through and a beer at the end will sort you out just fine.
Unless you're doing the Berlin Marathon, then it's a non-alcoholic beer at the end.
Yeah. In terms of obviously longer events, I would look at tapering off 2 to 3 weeks, depending what you're doing, up to I'd reduce the volume by up to 70%, but I'd maintain the intensity. But I would start to replenish, because if I've been training hard, I'm going to be training hard and not necessarily glycogen stores or glucose levels. For those that don't know what glycogen stores are, in 2 weeks' time, you can start adding extra carbs into your diet, to kind of extend your glycogen storage capacity as such. It's not unlimited, so don't go and eat too much. But it's a good idea to kind of increase your glucose or carbohydrates, is where your glucose comes from. Intake slowly in your tapering period, to give you that edge on your endurance run.
Fantastic. I'll just throw my 2 pennies worth in here. When you say you're carb loading, it's the likes of your pastas and your rices, which is great, which is good. But you should really be looking at which pasta and which rice you're putting in. The white pastas and rices are refined with added sugars and all sorts of stuff in them. So if you can get the brown pasta and the brown rices, that's going to be better for you. And better with the carbs. Right, I've got a couple of questions. Hold on, I've lost them now that I need to go through. The first one I'll be able to answer without any help from you, Neil, which is because it's
that's all right. I'll take a break.
You take a break. Right, Ben's asked the question. Tony, is that running guy's cap you are sporting this evening? Guilty as charged. And I know that Chris That running guy himself has actually logged in as well. So good evening to Chris. Thank you for joining us tonight, mate. Ben's also asked another question. Or he's not asked a question. He's made a point that I think that running with a GoPro and a selfie stick doesn't help because over time it has made me more tense in the arms as I subconsciously try to keep my arms still whenever I'm not filming. So there you go. It is quite hard, especially you, Ben. You're fantastic at it. Your videos are brilliant, but you try filming with a GoPro in one hand and keeping that still, and not being able to move the other arm because you got your broken shoulder. That's when it gets exciting. So I'd say just a little bit of a diversion. So as I say, good evening to the running guy. Has anybody else got any questions before we move on? I think, did I miss one? No. I'm just checking I've not missed any questions because I want to make sure everybody gets the questions answered if we can tonight. So as I say, good evening to Chris, the running guy. John Eaton said, thank you for the answer earlier on, Neil. That was good.
Very welcome, John. Hope it helps.
Okay, this you won't understand this, but last week Chris, the running guy, did a half marathon PB, and he didn't mention it apart from every 2 minutes. So he's just come on here and has typed that PB's now done, time to rest. So I think we're going to hear about that for the rest of the week. Right, we've been half an hour and we've only just touched on warming up. So this is good. Thank you, Neil, for spending the time with us tonight about this. Yeah. So can we talk about flexibility?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because as I said earlier in the intro, you did teach me a technique for helping me to run up hills more effectively, and that was a question of flexibility. So can you go into it in a bit more detail, Neil?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the techniques I use is called Proprioceptive Neuromuscular Facilitation, and it sounds really complicated.
Right, can we shorten that down to a few abbreviations because I've got no chance to repeat that.
Abbreviation would be the letter P for Peter, N for Norman, S for sugar. Right. PNF. Now, me personally, since I've been doing it since January this year, and I've increased my stride length by 10 centimeters. So per stride. So instead of, let's say, finishing a 5K race in 4,200 strides, I'm now doing it in 3,800 strides. So it's got an economical benefit to it.
So are you saying that your flight time's increased? With your stride length increasing, does that mean you're actually in the air longer? My
cadence has remained the same.
Right.
Okay. So my cadence hasn't changed much. So no. Right. Flight time increase probably has by milliseconds, but no. And the way this works, so I'm going to specifically talk about hamstrings because a lot of runners have tight glutes, tight hamstrings. Some have tight calves, etc. So I'm going to focus on kind of the hamstring muscle as such. So proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, PNF, works this way. So your body's got a protective, every muscle in your body has got a protective mechanism, which is like a motion sensor as such. So when your muscle stretches beyond a comfortable or what your body perceives to be a normal range of motion, it's what they're called. I've got the Golgi tendon organs in conjunction with the myotatic stretch reflexes are there, and they're basically motion sensors in your body. So once you've reached a certain stretch, it sends a signal up your spine all the way up to your brain, and it says stop sending signal to that muscle or you're going to injure yourself. Right. And it prevents injury, and that's why we lived so many centuries, millions and millions of years, from apes all the way down to who we are and who we represent today. And it's a protective mechanism. But what this PNF training does is overrides this mechanism and tricks it into letting you stretch beyond your normal range of motion. Yeah. Which in hamstring, a good way to test it, if you just lie prone on the floor or an exercise mat, try and lift one leg up 90 degrees, see how far you get. If you get to 90 degrees, I'd say you're pretty flexible. If you get beyond, incredible. If you can't, you've definitely got tight hamstrings, and you can do something about it. So with tight hamstrings, it's got two bad consequences really for a runner. One, it can reduce your stride length because it restricts your active range of motion or dynamic range of motion when you are running. And it doesn't allow, in terms of your gait, it doesn't allow for your knee raise to come quite as high as it should be. And therefore it reduces your stride length, your pace and speed. And number two, it adds resistance to your run. So imagine running with a resistance band between your legs kind of thing, and you got constantly pulling against that band. Now your hamstring acts just exactly in the same manner as a resistance band does. So imagine not having that resistance band to pull against when you're running, how much easier it would be. So not only does it increase your stride length, flexibility, but it also improves your running economy, which again could result into PB and good race times.
Just before you move on, Neil, Mark has actually asked that question. Has your times improved by doing this type of training? Yes.
Is a short answer. It's Pnf, F for Freddy. Sorry, it's my bad for saying S for sugar earlier. It's Proprioceptive, Neuromuscular, Facilitation, not Solicitation, which would be completely wrong. Yes, it has. On a 5K, I've probably got a minute and a half off it since January. In short, right. Personally. So the way this kind of works, and I'd like to do it with you guys on screen. If you want, guys can join in. We're just gonna, as long as you've got a thumb and you're not double jointed, you're not injured. Tony, you can try it if your shoulder will allow you.
I will try to. Yeah.
To do it. So what we're going to do now is you've got your two thumbs next to each other. Put your hands in a kind of a two fists, as you can see here with mine, next to each other. And if you pull both of your thumbs back as far back as you can. Pull them. Now take a look at them. Right, there should be no difference between left and right unless you're weird and you've got like multi joints and stuff. Yep. One thumb will not go beyond the other thumb without kind of cheating.
Okay.
So that's normal. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use the Pnf technique to make one thumb go beyond where it should be without breaking your fingers. So just put one palm out, choose another thumb, whichever thumb you want to work on. Okay. And then we're going to start breathing in for 4 seconds and out for 4 seconds. So just practice that for a second or two. Okay, so just hold that there. So in and then back out again. In and then back out again. Okay, so when I say now, I want you to push your thumb against the palm of your opposite hand and just keep on pushing until I say relax. Okay, so keep on breathing in and out and then push. Push with approximately 60 to 70% of your maximum effort. Okay, give it a nice long push while you're still breathing nice and slow in. Still pushing on your exhale. Keep hold of that push. Inhale for 4, and on your relax, exhale on your relax, and then on your relax, I want you to push your palm against your thumb. Okay?
Yep.
And just inhale. Exhale, so you should really feel that tension there, and then I just want you to kind of relax your thumb if you can, but still hold that your palm there. So really good. So we're going to repeat that again. So as you're inhaling and exhaling for 2 seconds, add some more pressure from your thumb onto your palm. Keep on adding that 60% of pressure. Breathing in, and then you exhale. Breathe in again, and on your exhale, you're going to relax your thumb, but as you're relaxing your thumb, you're going to add pressure from your hand back onto your thumb. So get your thumb all the way back, as far back as you can. Exhaling, inhaling. Okay, and you're going to do that one last time. So on inhale, I want you to push your thumb against your palm. Keep on pushing. Exhale, inhale. And on your exhale, relax the thumb, add pressure from your palm onto the thumb. And then exhale. Now relax it, just give it a bit of a circling motion. And now what we're going to do is you're going to go back put your hands kind of next to each other and go back and just have a look at the difference you can actually see within the two fingers. Can you see a small little tiny muscle? It can take what, a centimeter, half a centimeter off your wrists. Now with it
pushing back on both thumbs, and one is going back just a touch further than the other.
Just a touch further, and that's just a tiny thumb. Imagine what you can do with a vast muscle, which is your hamstring, and you can repeat this technique with an assistant, lying down on an exercise mat yourself. Bring your leg up as far as 90 degrees as you can, and then rest it on your assistant's shoulder. And then get your assistant to just hold your leg under the knee or on the on the quadriceps, just to make sure that knee is completely straight as you're doing it, and then start breathing in for 4, out for 4, in for 4, out for 4. And then what you're going to do is you're going to add pressure onto your assistant's shoulder with your hamstring. So you're going to try and push and squash your assistant as much as possible, while your assistant's going to try and keep your leg as straight as possible. So you're going to do that for an inhale, still holding the pressure for an exhale, holding the pressure for an inhale, and on your relax, your assistant is going to push that leg a bit further. Okay, and eventually you're going to trick this. You repeat that 3 times on each leg, 3 times a week. You're pretty much guaranteed what to do. There are lots of YouTube videos to watch on Pnf, flexibility training. Physiotherapists use it quite wide. Qualified exercise professionals, etc. If you want to refer yourself to one, absolutely look them up. They'll probably know what it's about. However, I need to stress the following things when you're using this. Do not use it on children. Especially if they're going through like growing pains and they're disproportionate. If you've got an elite child, do it, but do it in moderation. Do it with an exercise professional. Do not do it pre-run. Because you're going to have diminished performance, and 2, with the lax hamstrings, you can easily do yourself some long-term damage in terms of musculoskeletal injuries. Don't do it a pre-strength workout. It's a post-workout thing. I do it last thing of the day kind of thing. I allow a good night's sleep and rest. Don't do it if you've got inflamed muscles. Again, it's ill-advised. A way to know if you've got inflamed muscles or not, just if you've got any DOMs, don't do it then. And if you've got any fractures, broken bones, don't do it. Other than that, it's quite a safe exercise. And again, you'll see on your if you're doing it, your assistant will see it on your face, when to kind of stop, and you'll feel that your assistant will kind of get to know and feel that tension in your leg. But it's a brilliant technique.
It's basically remapping, isn't it? You're remapping the muscle. You're getting the muscle and the mind to shift, basically, aren't you? So yeah, that's probably the best way of doing it. We have a few comments from your demonstration, which we'll just run to.
Okay.
Michael says, "Wow." Mark says, "Amazing."
Thank you. I didn't come up with it, by the way. I'm just flogging it.
Right. Ben says, "That's madness. My tiny mind has been blown." Thank you very much, Neil.
You're very welcome, Ben.
And then Chris has come along. I can now run faster on my thumbs.
You can.
Which is always handy when we're coming back from the pub. Once they reopen, you can come back on your thumbs, and it makes it easier.
Absolutely.
Ben's off with first PB with thumbs. Mark has said, "I'm starting this tomorrow." Thank you very much indeed, Neil.
No problem. If I see you guys out there, I know when we do, we're not allowed to kind of meet, but even with BFR, they're a brilliant group, and we're all in separate groups and stuff. But if you can, just you see me about, just come and approach me and talk to me if you can.
If you can catch
I'm
you.
happy to.
Amanda Wilkinson, thank you very much indeed for your comment. I've seen this PNF working over the last month. Magic, Neil.
You have, Amanda. Thank you for your brownies.
Hope they're not from Amsterdam. Right. Chris says that's great advice. And I think one more from Ben. No PNF for my bad legs, though. Correct.
Not yet. No, absolutely not.
So just work on your thumbs, Ben. If you get the thumbs in line, the legs will follow eventually. So yeah,
PNF doesn't just work on obviously hamstrings. It works, shoulders, back, etc. YouTube, there's lots of videos on there.
If I can ask you to send me a link to your favorite YouTube video that covers this, that would be great, and I'll stick a link in the description.
I'm going to be honest here. I've not looked at a YouTube video doing PNF.
Hold on, the dog's barking. Go,
it's all right. So I haven't got, a favourite one. I can put some academic papers out there for you.
I'll tell you what. We'll make this a challenge for the viewer. If you come across a decent one of these videos,
absolutely,
put them in the comments below. We'd love you to share that if you go and find it. I know Mark will be on YouTube in 10 minutes looking for one. So brilliant. Just put the links in the comments below this video. So thank you for your day. That's great. It's something to think about and something to work on, something tangible to take away from this talk tonight. So thank you very much indeed for doing that.
The point is, it needs to be regularly upkept, otherwise it's pointless doing it, and well scheduled into your program.
Fantastic. Right. So look at the time. We are 45 minutes into this, so thank you very much indeed. So can we just quickly discuss strength training, or is that going to blow your mind?
My mind?
Yeah.
Or your mind? Yeah, strength training for runners. Let's narrow it down to runners. It's absolutely paramount. It's neglected by many. Even I'm guilty of neglecting strength training. It's recommended that you do strength training twice a week, and cardio up to 150 minutes per week, just to maintain your normal health. Obviously, if you're an athlete, this is going to improve, and it'll be completely different. But flexibility is a form of obviously strength and conditioning. So increasing your range of motions in your hamstring alone is can have phenomenal results. But all other joints and muscles are quite important. In terms of strength itself, I would look at periodizing exercise programs, or consult a professional for it to have an effective effect as such, because your training has to have a purpose or a set goal. So whatever your goals are, you're going to break down into little smaller goals of how you're going to achieve that goal. So if it's a marathon, a PB, or a certain time, then there's a lot of exercise testing involved in terms of what your current PB is, how many training days you currently do, what your current fitness level is, and it'll give you a baseline measurement. And based on that, you need to create a purpose-built, progressive, safely progressive exercise program to help you achieve it. So these exercise programs usually come in blocks of 4 weeks to 6 weeks, because any physiological change chronically, not acute, to exercise or long-term adaptation will take up to from 4 to 6 weeks for your body to get accustomed to it, and the physiological change to actually permanently happen in your body. And once you've got it, it needs to be maintained, because if you don't use it, you lose it. Mm-hmm. So I would periodize, let's say if you're starting next Monday, I would do 4 weeks of strength training, followed by a block of 5 weeks of hypertrophy training, and then a 6-week block of muscular endurance training. And then I will repeat that cycle around my competition cycle, etc. Be careful not to obviously overdo it in terms of volume, because you don't want to overtrain, etc., and just let yourself gradually into it.
Before you move on there, Neil, those 3 areas you just said, the 3 parts of the training block, can you just give an example of one exercise for each of those, just so to give people an understanding of what those 3 areas are?
It's not necessarily an exercise, but I'll try and explain in terms of how you would work through strength. So the purpose of strength-based training is to increase the strength that you already have, whether that be to increase your core strength. So the increased core strength can give you more stability and improve your performance. It can increase your proprioceptive ability and balance. So you're controlling your center of mass throughout the moment itself. So you've got less postural sway as such, so you're less likely to injure yourself. And pelvic floor exercises will help posture, therefore your running gait. So that just in terms of core strength, increasing your core strength alone, that's the kind of benefits attached to it. Obviously, you've got your lower body strength and your upper body strength. Now, I use, in terms of upper and lower body strength, it's important to have a full body workout. Even though you're a runner and you don't really use your arms, you still need to train your back, your arms, your shoulders, your chest, to improve that posture and just for body image, if nothing else. A full body workout is paramount. Sorry, I digress there. Once you, I kind of use my strength training with my clients and athletes as a developmental stage to get them strong enough to be able to go into the hypertrophy stage. So hypertrophy just means building of muscle mass. So when you build muscle mass, your quadriceps, your hamstrings, and your legs, your calves, your core, your upper body, you're going to be able to. You're going to get heavier on the scales temporarily. But you're going to have more mitochondria cells growth in terms of on your muscles, etc. Now, the more mitochondria you have, the more oxygen you can actually use up eventually in terms of VO2 to be able to produce ATP, which is needed for energy production. So the bigger the muscle, the more you're going to be able to physically do. So once you've passed this endurance for hypertrophy phase, you go into muscular endurance. So hypertrophy would be low repetitions with high weights or higher resistance, where a muscular endurance phase of training would be a lower resistance, 60% of your 1 rep max, but up to 20 repetitions of exercises. So you can do the same exercises as I said earlier, be that bench press or a barbell squat, depending on what your goals are: strength, hypertrophy, muscular endurance development. You would alter your weights and repetitions according to what you want to do, as opposed to giving you an exercise that fits kind of a certain stage. If that makes sense to you, Tony, I don't know.
Yep. Yeah. So it's a bit more than just strapping on a pair of Nike Next Percents and going out running. You've got to think of the big picture and the whole body.
100%. I lost my train of thought there, but yeah, any questions? I'm quite happy. Oh, tempo was another thing that you can play around with. I'm doing that, with a couple of athletes at the moment. For example, let's say strength. I would to develop strength, I would use the 3-1-1 as a tempo. So the 3 number always represents the eccentric contraction phase of an exercise movement. So, for example, let's just talk about a squat. So the 3 would be on the squat, you're going down for 3. The 1, you hold for 1, up for 1. Down for 3, hold for 1, up for 1. And the downwards phase, the reason why that is longer is because that's an eccentric contraction as opposed to a concentric one. The difference is the muscle lengthens during its contracted state on the way down. So it creates a tear, a muscle tear in like micro tears on the surface of the muscle and within the muscle fibers themselves, which in your recovery, the proteins that you eat afterwards come up and they fix these tears and they get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger all the time. So strength, 3-1-1. Hypertrophy, I would change that to a 4-2-2. So I would go down for 2, because you're doing more muscle damage. Once you're down there, this is where it's starting to burn. You hold for 2 seconds and then you go up for 2. And just by changing that tempo, you will feel the pain, but you will also get the gain. In terms of endurance, I would look at high repetition. So you'd increase your reps, or you'd lower your weights, and I'd look at possibly a 3-2-1. So down for 3, hold for 2, up for 1. Where if I'm looking at power, I'd probably do a tempo of a 1-1-1.
Fantastic. So thank you very much indeed. Right, we are running out of time. So if anybody's got any questions about strength or the warm-up or any of the other things we've touched on tonight, if you want to type them in the box now, we've got a few minutes to go through those and see if we can answer them for you. But you touched on, while people are thinking of questions, you touched on protein now.
Okay.
You always hear people say, banging on about protein, you need to take your protein shake afterwards. But I don't think most people know how much protein they get in their normal diet, or how much protein they need to take on extra because they're exercising. Can you give us any guidance towards that?
100% agree with you there. A lot of it as well, it is this protein, that protein. There's a million different makes and models out there. I don't know. This loads. A lot of them, even on their portioning, say, right, well, you need to have 3 scoops a day mixed with water every single day. That's obviously a marketing thing. Obviously, the more protein you buy off them, the more you use, the more they're going to sell, which creates lots of myths, wives' tales. Obviously, you hear people talking in the gym about all sorts of different things. The simple way of doing it is in terms of what your body can take. Now, your body can't store protein. It can store glucose in your muscles and your liver, and once that's kind of full, it transforms into triglycerides. So if you overconsume on carbohydrates, it's going to store it as glycerides, which are basically fats. Fat is stored as fat in your body, but proteins, you can't store them. We don't have, we've not got a little pocket or a little box where we can put them. So any excess protein that you consume, basically you wee it out. It gets turned into urine, and it's just a very expensive wee. So if you want to throw it my way. In terms of what's recommended for athletes, so if you're really, really serious, you can eat bodybuilders, you can eat huge, up to 8,000 to 10,000 calories a day. But for normal, regular recreational runners like we are, I would recommend on training days. So on non-training days, just keep it as normal, as you would just eat your chicken, fish, or if you're vegetarian, your vegetarian sources of proteins, lentils, wherever you get them from, beans. They're all absolutely brilliant. But your body can only take 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. Okay, so if you're 70 kilos, you multiply your 70 kilos by 1.6, and that's your daily target in terms of proteins on a training day. If you're training really hard or several times a day and you're doing some really heavy reps, you can do it up to, you can multiply it up to 2, but again, only on training days, really. And anything over that, your body probably won't use, and you'll just turn it into urine anyway. So there's not much need to go any further than that. In terms of protein powders, when you're buying them, this is what I tell everybody, and this is something practical that you can take on with your kind of information. There are 20 amino acids that exist, and amino acids make proteins. 21, should know this. 20 or 21 proteins, amino acids total, which basically amino acids make up proteins, but 9 of them are essential. So what I mean by essential is your body can't make them by itself. They need to be consumed from the environment, so they need to be consumed in your diet, where all the other 11 proteins can be synthesized from the building blocks of the 9 essential amino acids. So you can Google the 9 essential amino acids. So when you're buying a protein supplement, make sure that the 9 essential amino acids are on the ingredient list. Otherwise, you kind of, personally, I think you're not getting the value for your money, but that is just my opinion.
Fantastic. Right, as I say, we are running out of time. Nobody's come up with any questions, Neil, so you must have actually explained everything perfectly tonight.
I've taught them to sleep.
No, you're not talking them to sleep. We'll start pinging in a minute. So yeah, as I say, we are running out of time. We are going to give it a few minutes. If anybody's got any questions, while we've got Neil here and he's not going to charge you £50 an hour or part thereof for his services, get your questions in and tap into some free advice this evening. If you have any questions, if you've taken everything on board and you fully understand it, brilliant. That's what it's about tonight. It's a learning thing. So I've definitely taken some stuff away, especially with the flexibility training. And once my consultant says yes, you've healed up on the shoulder, then I'll be looking into do that. Right, Ben Browning is asked the question. We'll go for this one. He says, "Press." Oh no, not as well. This one. Any tips ahead of a VO2 test? I have one in a week, so I'm doing some 15 km/h runs on a treadmill. Any advice?
Try and breathe normally. Now, I'm presuming you're going to have a respirator kind of breathing device placed on your face. Try and breathe normally is probably the advice that you can get. It's 15 km/h runs on the treadmill, whether you're doing that as an interval or you're actually trying to gain for your own training benefit your accurate VO2 max. The biggest advice is try and breathe as normally as you could. Work really hard. If it's a maximal test, if it's a sub-maximal test, then just work to the level that is required. A good little piece of information is don't just get your VO2 max reading. If the technology is there and it is available, try and get your VCO2 readings as well. So that's will give you a good predictor or indicator of when you exactly what speed or what heart rate you are at when you go and transfer from aerobic to an anaerobic zone. And that's really useful in terms of running and looking at setting heart rate zones and speeds in terms of speed sessions to progress your aerobic fitness capacity.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed for that. Anybody else? Any more questions before we wrap this up? The one thing I did mention to Neil off air was that I bought a chest strap now for my Garmin. And I don't even press this one. Did I do this one? Kim says thanks for a good time.
Thanks, Kim.
Michael said. And
thanks,
Ben says thank you as well.
Thanks, Ben.
Everyone's going. Very knowledgeable advice. Thank you, Mark. A great night. Can't wait to try the PNF session. Sub 20. Here I come. Positive mental attitude there as well.
This year as well, Mark. I'll race you.
Fantastic. What I was going to say is, when it comes to heart rates, we've all got the Garmin or the Polar or whatever it is on the wrist, which gives a rough indication of your heart rate because it's going off light and the pulse into it. But since I've got the heart monitor that's strapped to the chest, I feel that the heart rate information and the effort perception of the effort are more closely matched, if you see what I mean. So having that more accurate information. Have you come across the same thing?
I personally don't like using the straps. Just they keep falling off. They keep going off center. There are loads of different types. I tend to use by this. I think the advice what I could give you, whatever technology you use and it works for you, stick with it. Because if you're getting your results, then absolutely brilliant. But as you're getting fitter, I would also look at retesting your maximum heart rate that you can reach. Your maximum heart rate reduces every year anyway. As we get older, we're not all spring chickens anymore, and age is definitely given. So as you improve or even regress because you're an injury, I'd retest and do some really fast runs to see, how high you can get your heart rate, and set that on your technology that you're using. Set your maximum heart rate as your maximum heart rate, and then your energy zones will kind of auto correct. And that's if you're using technology. I don't use I do use the technology in terms of when I'm putting them through the maximum paces and give me a maximum heart rate reading. I use that information, I take that information, but I put it in my own little algorithm, and I work in what you call heart rate reserve zones. To calculate your heart rate reserve is a simple formula. It's your resting heart rate taken away from your maximum heart rate. That's your heart rate reserve, and then it's more closely matched to your actual performance.
Right, I think that's another discussion we're going to have. That's going to take an hour or so. So we'll revisit that one at another time.
Yeah, when we've got more time.
Right, John's asked the question here. What should he read up on to learn more about the 3-2-1s and the 1-2-1s when weight training for different criteria in the gym?
Again, I've done a personal training course. That's where I looked and learnt about the tempo, etc. I would initially start maybe just for general out of interest. I'd probably Google it. I can honestly say I've never Googled it. I wouldn't know. But when I'm actually looking for information or a question like that to inform a client or an athlete of mine, I always go to scientific journals or academic publications on Google Scholar, etc., to find the best solution for them. So a more reliable source of information as opposed to YouTube. No offense to YouTubers, but they're either talking about something specific, so it works for them, or on YouTube, or they're trying to kind of to sell something, which it creates a lot of confusion in the fitness industry. So have a look at tempos on Google, see what you can find. But a good rule of thumb, as I can tell you now, is for strength 3-1-1, hypertrophy 4-2-2, power 1-1-1, endurance 3-2-1.
Fantastic. So you see, Neil, that's why I've come to you tonight, because I could make a video on all this using Google and what have you, but I might be telling the wrong thing. And as we said in the warm-up, if you learn the wrong thing to start with, it can cause more harm than good in the long run. So that's why we come to experts like yourself.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
No problem at all. As I say, Neil, thank you very much indeed for being there. Everybody who's watched tonight, really do appreciate you spending your time with us. If you do have a question, once we close the live stream in a couple of seconds' time, please type them in the comments below and we will try and get them answered for you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Not giving any guarantees on how long it'll take, but we will try and get those questions answered for you. And if it's all right with you guys watching, I think we'll invite Neil back in a month or so to come back and go through some more stuff as well. So I think that would be a cracking idea. So
yeah,
everybody watching, thank you very much indeed for spending the time with us. Neil, you're a top bloke. Thank you for your insight and your input tonight. Really do appreciate it. No problems at all. Just before we disappear, if you haven't done so already, here's a sales pitch from me. Click subscribe, click the like button for this video, turn on the bell notifications so you find out when we upload new videos. Don't forget to leave us a comment. And if you want to share this with 20,000 of your running friends, please do so. Saying all that, thank you. Good night. See you all again soon.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.